This is amplifier number 390. 390. This is way back. This is pre my marriage. This amplifier's way back. It's got a lot of old stuff in it that I don't do anymore, which is still cool, but this comes from my friend's estate that I'm disposing of. I own this, and I own all the other amplifiers in this collection. I was able to partner up with the third largest CB shop in the world, Zane at Big Rig Radio. He was kind enough to come up and get involved in this. Also, one of my friends over in the Northwest, who's one of the most stand-up men that I've ever gotten to meet in my life. After we found out what was happening with the family, we were all just kind of offended. And not with the family, but to the family. You know, when you die in the radio community, the vultures descend, right? Hey, they go to the widow, and, you know, the widow knows better. She does. Well, they show up and they say insulting things to the family like, well, you know, it's an awful lot of work to come over here and get all this equipment. And it's going to be, how about I give you $5 for this $2,000 piece of equipment? The widow knows what the husband paid. Women are smarter than us guys. We need to understand that. They just are. Most of them are. Okay? The way it is. And in their kindness in their heart, they let us pretend like we're in charge. And they let us pretend like they don't know what we're doing. Okay? I'm saying in most situations. In this particular situation, this family is fairly large. They're really, 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 really smart. They're pillars of the community. They're leaders. They are the core of where they live. They're right in the middle of the business of everything. Incredibly smart people, and they knew better. I got invited to go over and take a look at the equipment, and I offered up my sense of counsel to them in the very beginning of this one, right after their father passed, and they were ready to start dealing with trying to get rid of his estate. I did not want any of the equipment then. I don't want it now. The only reason I'm involved in this was because I was insulted by what some of these people have shown up and offered the family. We're talking the quantity of stuff involved: a moving truck, my truck and trailer completely packed full, another third person who's going to go back for a second round of equipment this week. The amount of stuff was amazing, just absolutely amazing. The quantity of stuff, and I think this gentleman kept every amplifier and radio he ever had. The family needed this process to end so they could move forward, not only from the standpoint of where all the equipment was being stored, but I mean, I don't know about you, 2 years go on and you're still trying to close out your dad's estate. You want it to be over, right? And these people were showing up, making offers of like $2,000, $2,100, $2,300, $2,800 for literally $10,000 plus worth of equipment. And that's, 50 cents on the dollar, $10,000 worth of equipment offer, right? They were just trying to rob the family, and it was offensive. It was offensive to me. And so after they heard these insults that came from these people that showed up and took their time, their precious time from their lives, and so, and they spit out all the offensive, normal, lowball, vulture creature stuff. The family called me up and says, is there anything we can do? Because we just want to get this gone, but in the same breath, we don't want to give it away. And I said, yes, give me a month, and I'll get this figured out. So I was able to partner, like I said, with a couple different guys. I ended up purchasing all the equipment. I didn't want it then, at the beginning. I didn't want it when I bought it, and I don't want it now. I don't need any more stuff. I've got more equipment over here than 5 guys could use, right, that I own. I don't need any more stuff. So as you guys have seen with the last couple videos, I'm just basically giving this equipment away. Here, this is the bottom dollar. Take it, go use it, have fun. I'm pretty sure that's what Larry'd want to see happen. His kids don't want to use it, you know, that kind of thing. So I've got another really cool thing I'm going to do this afternoon. I'm really excited to get to do this. Got a gentleman who's a patron. He called and chatted with me yesterday, and you know, I've got a radio that I'm gonna get to him, and I've got an amplifier out of this estate that I've pulled aside that I think is going to fit within his budgetary means, and I'm going to make sure to hook him up with one of those new HP power supplies to power everything in his station, and we're going to get him back 10.8 on the air, and I think Larry would just be ecstatic about that, because Larry loved to see people have fun with radio. This is not fun for me. This is a lot of work. I did this because I love my friend. So this amplifier here was in his truck. Initially I built it for, I think, an F250 or an F350 diesel, and he ended up selling that truck, and then he went to an F150. He was a Ford guy. It's okay. We're not going to judge. We're not. You know what they say, if you just want to flat out pull some shit, buy a Dodge. If you want to get there with comfort and style, class, and still pull the same shit, buy a Chevy. And, well, want to get towed home by a Ford. I know there's a lot of Ford guys that are out there that disagree with that. I have spent the last 5 weeks trying to help my wife and myself. My wife, I wanted to buy her a truck that was just hers, that wasn't ever owned by anybody else. There was no sentimental attachment to it. It wasn't owned by an ex-business partner or anything like that. I wanted to buy her a truck, so we've been out looking for a new truck now for 5 weeks, and we finally settled on one yesterday and purchased it. And I got to tell you, I've been to every car lot, every Slimeline dealership, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, you name it, I've been there looking for this truck. There are 5 Ford pick-a-model for every single Chevy or Dodge for sale. The Dodges really, really, really hold their value, and so does the Chevy, but the Fords are dirt cheap. Like dirt cheap in comparison. I was on the phone with a friend of mine that's a Ford guy last night, and I told him that fact. It's a fact. It's not an opinion. It's a fact, right? You can sit there and count. You go to the dealership, and you're like, okay, the used car dealership, and you're like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Fords. Oh, 1 Chevy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, Dodge. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, Chevy. Math don't lie, man, right? So I'm just saying, I'm a bow tie guy, and it's because I come up in the radio community for the most part, and a lot of stuff. Let's face it, a lot of the trucks in the radio community, especially shootout trucks, and a lot of the radio guys prefer to have Chevys because there's so many aftermarket bolt-on components. They're like the AR-15 of the truck market. And yeah, you can go buy strap-on parts for an AK. That'd be the Ford, by the way. I'm not lying. You can go buy strap-on parts for the AK, but they're a pain in the or for a Ford, but they're a pain in the ass to install, and there's very few, and the parts are very limited. But I mean, overall, just looking at the truck, that's the main reason I went with Chevy. That, and they're really easy to work on, right? And when I got to be an adult and start buying truck parts and buying trucks, the 6.0 was in its prime, and everybody I knew that had a 6.0, they had problems with it. And every single one of them used the dumbest phrase I've ever heard in my life, which was, let's bulletproof them. Yeah, once you bulletproof them, the motor's great. You should not have to spend, within 50,000 miles of the purchase of a new vehicle, an additional $10,000 to $15,000 to fix the flawed motor to make it bulletproof. You'll never get to change my opinion. This is the same motor that took Ford Motor Company to its knees and almost bankrupted Ford because they were, what, $100 million from being non-liquid and being out of money due to warranty repair on this incredible truck. So that put me off on Ford. I've owned Fords. I'll never own another one ever again as long as I live. I'm a Chevy guy. It is what it is. Just is what it is. We put this in his truck. We did a beautiful install. On the first one, he came back over, we did a beautiful install on the second one. The logo on this cabinet's on the side. It's because this sat underneath his bench in the back of his truck. And you know, you couldn't see the face of this thing. It was completely remoted. And, you know, he goes, no, I want everybody to know what kind of amplifier I have. I'm like, okay, Larry, no problem. So we put the sticker on the side. In here, you're going to see that there's some stuff in here that I don't do anymore. Let me give you a quick synopsis on this. I remember when I first got my very first spectrum analyzer. I was a young lass of 30 some years old, and I was really excited because, you know, these meters here allow us to read how much power is going that direction. You know, that one, these two here measure power going that way. This one measures the power coming back. And this piece of equipment tells us where the power is at, how broad of power it's producing, how many different harmonics, how big the spread is, all of that. This equipment. This just tells us how much is going out the line. This piece of equipment tells us where it's at, what its signal density is, what its diversification is, what its spread is. Okay, this thing here I use for waveform voltage measurement and screen capture, signal capture, and a whole bunch of other stuff. This here, that's for frequency, and that's a tone generator. SIGGENT tone generator, which this thing's actually got built into it, but it's all good. I didn't feel like paying the $700 for that kit or whatever it is. I got my first spectrum analyzer. I brought it home. I bought it from my friend Bill in the desert, and I proceeded to sit down with an X-Force 2x4 I had and take every part out of it and see how it affected the entire amp, change every cap, see how it affected the amp, change the placement of all the parts to see how it affected the amp. I needed to learn. Well, I remember I took a piece of metal I was organizing something in there, and I had to solder down a lead that went between the two transistors, effectively sitting between the primary and the secondary side, or your input and your output transformers. And I couldn't help but notice over here, one of the harmonics that I've been chasing in my old Tektronix, not this spectrum analyzer, my old Tektronix analyzer just disappeared. It went whoop, just disappeared. And I went, whoa, I discovered something. Whoa, I know mirror board technology. Whoa. You know, I got really excited. Only to have, not even 2 days later, I popped open an old Texas Star 500, 400, something like that. And in there was a piece of copper that the engineers had soldered between the input and the output transformers. And I went, oh man. I'm the only one I know that has ever put this in here and called it this. I know that I've seen it in Texas Stars, some of the old Palomars. The guys back in the day actually knew what they were doing, really. I mean, legit, they did. They had spectrum analyzers too. And they were pretty smart guys, okay? I thought I discovered something new, and I was all about, at that time, when I was building these, I was all about trying to keep everything as tight in frequency spans as I could get it. Because I very quickly figured out, you have guys, when they talk, their signal is spread all over the place. You know, it's like 20 channels below 1 to where you can hear them in your radio all the way up to, you know, 20 channels above 40. A lot of that has to do with front end overload on the radios when you're listening to them on the radio, but some of that is actually pure just harmonics that are all over the place. And I thought, man, how devastating would they be? Because they can't hear, you can't hear on all those channels. And I remember having this thought way back in the beginning, man, how devastating would it be if we could build an amplifier where all the power goes within 10 kcs or 5 kcs? Oh my God, that's the key to the kingdom, right? So I chased down that rabbit hole, and hence the reason when I got my spectrum analyzer, I was really super stoked, because I was now able to see not just the quantity of power being produced, but I could see where it was going, and I wanted to be able to control, to the best of my abilities, where it was actually going and on what frequency. And a lot of that honestly comes down to what you're putting into it for the radio. 90%, 99.5, 97, pick a number. It's in the high 90s. Comes down to what you put into the amplifier. But we can do things on the amp to manipulate that. Well, I saw that harmonic drop out and I went, sweet. And I jumped all over that. And I did this for about, a year or so. Then we changed. There was things that I wanted to change. I reached out to a company and had them make me my own output transformers. I quickly discovered with the spectrum analyzer that there can be a huge difference that takes place just in the front of the transformer, how far it's spaced apart, because you know they basically just cut this down the middle. I wanted that gap to be fixed and to never move again. I also wanted a little line of insulation between the back of this cabinet, or the back of the transformer, and the board. If you look down in here, you'll see that I have the back of the transformer sitting on another piece of phenolic, and it was to help support the back end of the transformer and to keep it from touching. Well, my primary motivation behind this was to make it so I could neaten up this entire layout and make it so that the wires go underneath the transformer, right? I've done many videos talking about the advantages of this. And it's really cool because I see a lot of guys have watched and learned from those videos, and now they're doing this themselves, or a form of it, which I think is great. I say copy away, and you're never going to hear me cry about it. Never ever will you hear me cry about it. If you see something in one of my videos that helps your equipment run better, do it. Okay? Do it. You copy that shit. Just give credit where you get it from, okay? That's bottom line. You know, I learned a lot by taking apart X-Force Dave made, ICA Fat Boy, all that kind of stuff. Messenger, Palomar. I've been inside of everybody's amplifiers. Every single one of the guys. Every single one. And if I learned something from them, I give credit. So just give credit where it's credit's due. When I lifted up the transformer, the harmonic went away without having to have this board in here. And what was happening is there's a harmonic coupling effect. There's a coupling that takes place between the winding on this transformer and the winding on this transformer, or this transformer and this transformer, the primary and the secondary. This little bit of metal in here throws that all out of resonance, so that harmonic got suppressed. When I lift the transformer up, okay, now the wires weren't exactly on the same plane. They weren't with each other. They were separated just by this much, just like a little bit. And that was enough to throw that harmonic out of resonance again, and we were able to suppress it that way. So I no longer had to put these in here. Then I went to my input transformers that I built myself, and I build in-house. I build all of this in-house now. I do the output transformers, input transformers. It's all done in-house now by me, which you guys have seen. When I went to that input transformer, it got even better. I ended up killing off a whole bunch of other harmonics. The whole idea between the input transformers being set up and the ferrites being set a little bit farther apart, is I was shooting for a little bit more frequency cut on the input transformer. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole talking about transformers. Anyhow, I was looking to change the design. I looked at what a friend of mine had going on, and I asked him what his logic was behind it. I came home and I got a couple transformers from him, and came home and studied it, threw it actually in the amplifier, see how it would affect the amplifier, see what it was doing to the signal on the output side, see what I had to do change capacitance wise, because it was going to change how the transformer's Q reacted to the circuit. Long story short, by modifying the output and input transformers, we were able to delete this part, needless to say. My friend Smokestack's been inside this amplifier. I called Smoke and I said, hey man, this ain't me, right? Larry, my friend Larry, about every 6 months was blowing the key-in circuit out of this amplifier. And I don't know how he did it. I wasn't there. I've never been there. I've fixed it 2 or 3 times for him. And then he finally sent it over to Stack. And Stack put in this beautiful tip transistor. Let's see, this is a TIP 3055. This thing's bulletproof. The two N222 key-in transistors that we use today work wonderfully. They can be a little bit sensitive to the RF environment that they're in. Okay. I'm not talking about this RF environment. Sitting down thinking about this the last couple days, going, why would this keying circuit keep popping? Well, Stack told me a very helpful bit of knowledge when I talked to him on the phone. He goes, well, the thing showed up here, and Larry said make it so that the relay never quits ever again. And he goes, I go to look in and the relay, because this is not my relay, the relay was completely fried. And I went, oh, okay. And he says to me, you know, them little key and transistor circuits that you guys use are cute, but I want to put something in there that would never quit. I was like, okay, I understand and respect all of those things. But the fact that the relay was completely burned up, that tells me one thing. I can almost bet you money that the amp was put on, left on, the guy shut his radio off, pulled his truck up right next to his antenna, because here was his, let's say this, the amp is his house. His antenna was here, and where he parked his truck was right here. And then he went in and he started talking on his radio for 2 days, and this thing was sitting out in the truck with the fan running, and he's in here banging away at 4,000 or 5,000 watts, and this amplifier sitting there going brrrt, 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 because the RF's coming down the antenna, coming across the relay, activating the keying transistor. The keying transistor activates the relay, cuts the signal off, and the keying transistor goes, oh, look, no more RF, and it shuts off again, then it gets signal again, and it turns itself on. So the amp was sitting there doing this probably a million times, and that's what kept blowing up the transistor at the keying circuit. I'm almost positive. I'm almost positive. Yeah. I'm going to leave this in here. This is a really good design. It's a cute layout. I dig it. I think it's fun. This transistor will never fail you. It's bulletproof. Stack, I appreciate you taking care of my friend Larry for me. I really do. No shit being said here at all. None. I'm legit saying, hey, thank you for taking care of my friend. And yeah. What I do want to go in here and change, though, is these two coax connectors that are on the back. They're Bakelite. I don't use those anymore. I consider that to be a substandard thing. I've had these fail every which way you can have them fail. The Bakelite connectors, that is. So we're going to go in here. We're going to put the silver-plated, you know, Teflon insulated, legit Teflon from Max Gain Systems, legit Teflon PL259 connectors on the back of this thing. And then the other thing I want to do is, if we look down in here, we'll notice there's no ground tab that goes from this nut down to the board. That is an absolute must. Even though the aluminum has been cleaned off, the clear powder coat, whatever you want to call it, finish. I always thought these were cleared. I was just recently informed that this is a clear powder coat that's on all these cabinets. I wasn't recently. Since I built this amplifier, I've been informed. I want to make sure that there's a good, solid, connected ground that goes between these two connectors, other than through the cabinet. So I'm going to add that up real quick. And this had twist lock welding leads on the power supply wires. We're going to go and we're going to add the Anderson 175. We'll slap that on there real quick, so whoever this ends up going to, yeah, we're not having to deal with just bare wire. I'd rather see it go out with an Anderson plug on it, and you know what I mean. The twist lock welding leads are really the shit. They're really the way to go. They're way more expensive than this. I'll be honest with you, when I took this out of the truck, I left the twist lock welding leads in the truck for the kid that had the truck. That poor truck ended up getting demolished, by the way. God came along and smacked that truck so hard. Where he lived got clobbered by hail the size of baseballs and softballs. And I have never in my life seen a truck that was so beat to death. It literally looked like somebody took a 20-pound sledgehammer and walked around every single flat surface on that truck and just hit it. Windshield, rear window, top of doors, hood, fenders, side of hood, front of fenders, bumper, top of bed rails, side of bed rails, inside of the bed, the back of the tailgate. Everything had a hole or a divot in it that was at least that deep. It was unbelievable. When we went over there to get everything, the family asked me if I wanted to go up and get the amplifier out of his truck, and I said yes, I'd love to get this back. This needs to go to a new home. This does not need to stay here. I have enough sentimental equipment. That's all I can tell you. So, okay, back history, story done, all stories done. Come back, this will be all fixed up, ready to rock and roll, and we'll hook it up on the meter, and I appreciate everybody being patient enough to listen to me rattle on for the last few minutes. Okay, here we go. I changed the coax connectors, put power plug on it, changed the output tuning capacitor on it, so it would never ever have to worry about it failing again. This little Hobman jobby thingy that was in there was junk. Okay, so amps back up to full output. Let's go over here and let's run through the storyboard here. This is a 1,000 watt slug and peak, 1,000 and average bird, whatever you want to call it, 5 watt slug reverse, back from the bird 10,000 watt dummy load. This is a 5 watt slug between the radio and the amplifier. So, that's my pass-through tune. Let's turn the amp on. That's our input tune. So now, let's release the clutch brake on the tripod, and we're gonna come on down here again. So, turn the amp off. This is what I'm putting into it for radio drive. Hello, 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Same 30 watts we've been seeing now for 10 years. Turn the amp on. Hello, 1 2 1 2. Making 950, almost 800 watts. Or pardon me, 950, almost 1,000 watts. 20 watts of drive. Hello, 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 hello. Let's turn the amp off. Let's turn the 5 watt slug around so it shows us forward power. That's with a 1/2 a watt going in. Let's dial this up for a 1 watt carrier. Turn the 5 watt slug around. Turn the amp back on. And 1 watt carrier gets us 200 watts coming out. Hello. 900 watts from the way you're looking at it. From my point of view, where I gotta stand at. Hello. Squint your eyes, you figure it out on your own. Okay. This thing is ready to go back out into the world and play some more. Because God knows it's played enough in its life. So, let me put the tin on it. I'll put the lid on it and get the fan hooked up. I'm going to put an up-to-date sticker on the front of it for y'all. And we'll be back. Okay, so here we're done. All of these sales of all of these different products that I've been selling here this last week, none of this money is coming here. All this money is now going to get turned around. This is what we're using to pay for the BBI Bakerman brake. Which I think that's the way Larry'd want it, to be honest with you. So, we're asking $1,100 for this, plus the ride. Ride's going to like 25, 30 bucks. That's it. There is $1,300 worth of transistors in this amplifier alone. So it's not too far of an ask on this amp. I am open to any serious offer or an offer that makes sense. I'm not interested in doing a trade. Not. But if you call me up with an offer of $900 or something like that, something reasonable, I'm going to totally listen to you, and you'll probably end up getting yourself an amplifier. So don't hesitate to call me or text me or message me. And if you're one of my Patreons, don't even hesitate for a second. Call me. All right? Okay. So, amp on. Hello. Hello. This thing works perfectly. It came from here, so you know you got a warranty on it, and I'm going to stand behind it. It's an old girl, but she's in really good shape. And I think somebody out there is going to need to get her and have fun with her and talk their asses off with it. So, that note, I got to go. I got a bunch more of these things I got to go through. This is just one of many. There's more coming. There's more coming. Big shout out to Siglet, XS, Penta, Mechman, Bird, Coaxial Dynamics. friends over at Matchlet. And remember, it's a 1.21 gigawatt power supply. It'll not only kill you, but it's going to hurt the whole time while you're dying. Okay. Serious. Big thanks to my Patreon supporters. I don't get to do all this fun, crazy stuff without your guys' support. And I say thank you to every single one of you. All right, I'm out. I'll see you.